What is up, my world history students? Today is Tuesday, so happy morning, evening to you. Today we're learning about the fighting in World War II, but first we really have to work up to actual fighting. So tomorrow we're really going to get to more the impact of new technology itself, just because we don't have as much time as we used to in class. So we're going to start this lesson and then we'll finish the lesson on Thursday. So be looking out for that. But today we're going to really talk about the fighting in World War II and why the fighting started. And we'll end on a little bit of trench warfare. So keep an eye out for that. That's fun. So let's go ahead and look at the first portion of this. So if you watched the video for this week's discussion, then this will all be explained. So I want to leave this up to you guys to watch the video for this week's discussion, but we're really going to touch back on what we learned yesterday. So we have the main causes for the World War I. So militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. Those are going to be the main issues that we have for World War I. So what's really going to happen is there's going to be this assassination of this dude named Franz Ferdinand in 1914. And this is actually going to lead us into what's going to start World War I. So go ahead and check out that other video for the week's discussion. It'll explain all of what happened here with this assassination. So I'm going to move on from here. So because of the conflict between Serbia and Austria-Hungary, Austria-Hungary's like, yo, Germany, should we go to war with Serbia? And they're like, sure, might as well. We got these huge armies. We've got a huge amount of industrialization. And honestly, they all wanted to kind of flex how much power they really had. So they're going to go to war with Serbia and start World War I. So what's going to happen is Austria's going to be like, hey, I'm going to fight Serbia. And then Russia's going to be like, hey, don't touch Serbia. And then Germany is going to be like, hey, don't touch Austria. And then France is going to be like, hey, don't touch Russia. Because all of these different people are allied. And then everyone else is going to kind of jump in on different sides. So this is a great depiction of what's actually going on here. So it's just a huge chain reaction of people being like, hey, that's my friend, don't touch my friend. And then they're like, no, that's my friend, don't touch him. And so on and so forth. It's like a super typical fight where you're like, that's my friend, don't touch him. And then like another friend, one of their friends jumps in and they're like, if you touch my friend, I'm going to touch you. And yeah, it leads to a lot of super weird conflict. So here is Europe before the war. So before World War I, here is Europe. These are the different countries that they're broken into. And here is when the war starts, here is what sides people are going to take. So we have Austria-Hungary and Germany. That Austria-Hungary starts it with Serbia, and then Germany gets involved, and then Russia gets involved, and then France, then Great Britain, Ireland. So you can really see here the Allied powers in green and the Central powers that are in purple. Don't forget about the Ottoman Empire over here. We've learned a ton about the Ottoman Empire. They're kind of on their last leg already, so World War I is really going to do them in. But the Ottoman Empire is underneath me if you can't see that one. So right at the get-go, like 1914, all of this industrialization, people are stoked about having so much power. They have these huge militaries, and they're just ready for some war. They're like actually pretty excited to test out their new equipment and their new way of living in this huge military. It brings this nationalism into play where people are super enthusiastic about having a war so that they can kind of show their patriotism. So they pretty much think it's going to start in 1914, and they thought it was going to end by Christmas of 1914. And they were definitely way, way wrong that they thought it was going to end by Christmas. I think they were just very enthusiastic about it and a little maybe too gung-ho about how much military power they had and how little military power they thought everyone else had. So all of these nations were ready for war, and I think that made it so it was way worse for them. So the biggest problem was going to be for Germany. So we see Russia over here and France over here, and Germany's kind of sandwiched in between. They know that Russia's a really big place. They know that it's going to be super hard for Russia to get soldiers over to Germany and actually get their army ready in time. So they really first go for France. So their plan is that they are going to go super quickly into France, defeat them as quick as possible, and then get ready for defeating Russia quickly also while they're still trying to get their military together. So this was their plan, is that they were going to hit France super hard, and then they were going to go for Russia just as quickly so that they could try to kill two birds with one stone. But they weren't expecting them to put up much of a fight, but there was a huge amount of conflict over on that border. So they actually decided to invade the Netherlands at this point in time, and they were a neutral country, and they're going to invade the Netherlands to get to France because the France and German border had a lot of barricades on it. So what this does is it actually does get Great Britain involved. So it's going to get the British people involved in this because they see that Germany is taking over a neutral country, and they're not happy about it because the Netherlands really wanted to stay neutral at this point in time. So what's going to happen is it's going to be a lot more battle than they thought it was going to be. This is where we're really going to see what we call trench warfare. So the French are going to push Germany back to their border, and Russia's going to push Germany to their border, and they're going to have this big trenches that they are going to dig through there. So first border we're going to look at is known as the Western Front. So you can see that right there. That's between Germany and France. So if you ever hear about the Western Front, that's where it's at. And we're also going to have the Eastern Front between Germany and Russia. So if you ever hear that someone's ancestor or someone's relative fought on the Eastern Front or the Western Front, that's really what it means. So these are going to be these huge, crazy trenches that they're going to dig and create this trench warfare. So it's just because they had fortified their positions, and that's pretty much where they were setting up camp. And it seemed like an easier way to get cover because of the new technology that we'll really talk about tomorrow. So here is a typical trench right here. So this is going to be a trench right in the middle there. You can see the no man's land. So that's going to be covered in bodies and rats and barbed wire. And it's going to be the place that is going to separate these two armies. So all of them are going to have these pretty elaborate trench systems on the back sides of them so that they can actually live in these trenches. But as you could imagine, with rain and everything, these soldiers are just living in this nasty, nasty, nasty water. They're also being shot at pretty much constantly by artillery fire. So each side is going to have an artillery between them, and they're just going to launch shells after shells after shells at one of the sides until they feel like they could cross the no man's land and try to take over the other person's trench. There are some really big problems with this. It is not great living conditions. We are talking years at a time these soldiers would have to be in these trenches. So just imagine, I just put this in here just for you to imagine climbing out of the trench into that no man's land. Imagine running towards an enemy who is also dug in, trying to get over all of these dead bodies and this barbed wire and take over their trench that's super fortified while they're firing at you. So a pretty crazy concept here. The picture on the right-hand side is to just show the rats. Imagine having an infinite amount of dead bodies for these rats to eat on. At least in their minds, it's an infinite amount of dead bodies. And they actually have these descriptions, and you can actually even see some of the rats there, that they were bigger than badgers or rabbits, that these rats were huge because they had so much food, because there were so many dead bodies in that no man's land. And then these soldiers had to live with these rats being around. They actually started training dogs to catch the rats, and there's like tales of these dogs actually catching these rats. On the left-hand side, I want you to notice their living conditions. Look at what they are standing in. If they get out of that trench, they're going to get shot. So because of standing in this trench, there's going to be something called trench foot. So here, I'll leave you with this great picture of trench foot. This is not even a depiction, just a picture of trench foot. And it is nasty. Like, it's from your feet literally being soaked in this boggy, nasty, bacteria-filled water all the time. And this would lead to your feet actually kind of rotting away or decaying away. Trench foot is kind of like frostbite in that if you get trench foot on a specific part of your body and don't treat it fast enough, you actually have to just amputate that portion of your body or cut off that portion that got that nasty soaked in. It really just ends up killing your cells in that particular area because of how damp and the living conditions for your body in that type of situation. So this is what I want you to leave you with today. So just imagine the trench warfare that they were going through. And tomorrow we're going to talk about machine guns and how different technology really changed the portion of this war to being a world war. It wasn't a quick and easy war like they thought it was going to be. It was way, way different than how anyone had ever imagined. So be looking for that video on Thursday, and I hope you all have a great rest of your week.